Today, I'm going to compress 25 years of web design experience into a short video, something like an espresso shot of web design wisdom, minus the jitters. But I bet you're wondering how I could possibly share 25 years of experience in a short video. Well, the techniques I learned 25, 15, even 7 years ago are kind of irrelevant today. They're constantly changing. Remember when every website had to have animated GIFs bouncing everywhere? And don't get me started on those textured backgrounds with completely unreadable text, because nothing says professional like giving your users a headache. But here's what's really fascinating. While technology has changed dramatically, users really haven't. Sure, attention spans might be shorter than a TikTok video, but the core of how people interact with websites remains surprisingly consistent. Users still scan pages like they're speed dating with content, making split-second decisions about whether to stick around or ghost your website forever. First, let's talk about hero sections and something everyone should understand. People spend about 80% of their time above the fold and read only about 20% of your text. And you've got about 3 seconds, 3 seconds, to convince them they're in the right place. This is why your hero section needs to immediately answer 3 questions. What is this? What's in it for me? And what should I do next? Miss any of these and your visitors will likely bounce. Now let's talk about color psychology. And no, I don't mean the psychology behind why we thought neon green text on a black background worked back in the late 90s. Color isn't just about making things pretty. It's about emotion and conversion, or as I like to call it, how to manipulate emotions with RGB values. It's why banks love blue, meaning trust, why eco brands go green, meaning growth, and why every sale ends soon button is red, meaning urgency, even though that sale has been ending soon for the past 6 months. But here's where many designers still trip up: contrast. Those subtle light gray on gray combinations might look super minimal and cool, but they're about as readable as a doctor's handwriting. The fix is simple though. Use contrast checking tools. They're like having a tiny accessibility expert on your shoulder gently whispering, maybe that light gray text on a gray background isn't your best idea. Let's talk about navigation. You know that thing we thought we all had figured out until mobile devices came along? We've come a long way from those basic drop-down menus. And here's the thing about how people actually navigate. They scan in F patterns on desktop and Z patterns on mobile. So always position important elements along those patterns. Navigation should never make your users stop and scratch their heads. When you get it right, it's like having a clear path in front of you. You know exactly where you're going, and everything just feels natural. Put your most important links where people expect to find them, and don't hide crucial links 3 levels deep, because users typically give up after just 3 or 4 clicks if they haven't found what they're looking for. Laying out the content is every bit as critical as the navigation. When you're designing layouts today, everything needs a purpose. Each element should look like it fits perfectly in its spot, whether someone's viewing it on a huge screen or a tiny phone. Think of it as curating an art gallery. You need to consider how each piece relates to others and how visitors will move through the space. We've come a long way from the table layout days when designs were as flexible as concrete. Those were dark times. Now we can create designs that actually work with different screen sizes instead of fighting against them. But here's the catch. When it comes to making your site mobile friendly, it's not just about shrinking everything down. It's more like packing for a vacation in a carry-on. Every element needs to earn its place on that small screen, because mobile users are easily distracted by the many other things they're doing while browsing, like walking, waiting in line, or pretending to pay attention at meetings. Don't look surprised, you know who you are. Here's a pro tip about mobile layouts. Respect the fat finger. Touch targets should be at least 44 by 44 pixels. Making them smaller is like threading a needle while wearing boxing gloves. Technically possible, but why would you do that to yourself or your users? Next, let's talk about typography, because it's literally your website's voice. Here's something most designers don't realize. Every font weight you add slows down your site. The solution? Use variable fonts when you can. They're like a Swiss Army knife packing multiple weights into one file. When that's not an option, just be picky about which weights or styles you actually need. For font pairings, I found two strategies that always work. Serif for titles with sans serif for body, or the same sans serif family with different weights. Serifs actually guide your eyes across long headlines, while sans serifs make body text easier to read. Combining different sans serif fonts can be tricky because of their differing proportions, inconsistent stroke weights, and the basic shapes. For example, Helvetica and Futura, while both classic sans serifs, can clash when paired directly. The key is contrast, not conflict. Now, if you're not sure, you can use a tool like Font Pair with curated Google Fonts, or font pair generators like Monotype, or Mixfont to help you find good font combinations. Next, let's talk about performance. Did you know Amazon found a 1-second delay in page load time could cost them $1.6 billion annually? That's enough money to buy everyone in Canada a decent cup of coffee. And here's the kicker. Most performance issues aren't from complex functionality. They're usually from unoptimized images, unnecessary animations, or that massive background video of clouds that someone thought was tastefully restrained. The solutions are pretty straightforward. Lazy load your images so they only load when needed, optimize everything, and please think twice about that background video. What about micro interactions, those small, subtle design elements or animations that make your website feel more alive than a caffeinated squirrel? They should be used like seasoning in cooking. Use them sparingly and only when they enhance the user experience. Overdoing micro interactions is like putting whipped cream on your pizza. Just because you can make everything bounce and wiggle doesn't mean you should. Now, what about AI? Is it coming for our jobs? I don't think so, at least not with the tools available today. It does, however, help speed up the design process and make life a little easier. The key is knowing when to use AI and when to trust your human instincts. Think of AI as brainstorming with a partner who's read every design book ever written, but sometimes gets them mixed up. Now, if you want to know how to use AI tools to speed up your web design workflow, make sure to check out this video. Think of it as AI for designers who don't want their websites to look like they were designed by AI.